here we believe that they ought to be owners of the brokerage, and here at eXp Realty they are. And we'll get into some of the agent ownership initiatives that make that possible. There are a number of them. But I think what you'll find too about agent ownership, and you can ask Jim Bilbao, and you can ask Shelley, and you can ask anybody else who's been here for any period of time, it really changes everything about the way in which we interact, the way in which we conduct business together, the way in which we help one another. We find ourselves in an environment where we celebrate the successes of one another rather than competing for them. And I think that that is a direct result of the ownership mindset, and it's a very refreshing change, I think, from a lot of different work environments. A little bit about the history of the company. Back in October of 2009, there was a company called Buyer Tours Realty, and it was a traditional brokerage, had offices and staff and photocopiers and toner for the photocopiers and magazine subscriptions, all of the expenses that typically are going to be attendant to a traditional brokerage. And that brokerage, Buyer Tours Realty, was started by Glenn Sanford. Glenn Sanford is the founder of this company. A brilliant man, very accessible, serves as a mentor to anybody who's part of the organization and who wants to talk with him about anything at all. And in October of 2009, the company changed its name to eXp Realty LLC because leading up until that point, there had been, as everybody probably remembers, a bit of a market crash in the real estate industry. Sellers couldn't sell their houses, buyers couldn't get financing, the economy was not doing well. And so at the same time that sales were down and commissions were down and revenues were down, the fixed expenses, the costs associated with running a brokerage weren't going away. So that photocopier toner wasn't going down in price. The magazine subscriptions were staying the same. Your rent, your CAM charges, they were all holding steady. And Glenn had the vision and the foresight, and he said, you know, we've got to change radically the way in which we go about things. And so as a result, we're here today. We're in avatars. We've completely changed our cost structure, and we've created a lot of opportunities in the process. Glenn himself entered the industry back in about 2002, reluctantly, but somebody saw in him an ability early on, before anybody else really was tuned into this, to generate inbound traffic, inbound leads, strictly by leveraging what he knew about online lead generation. And using those skills, he was very successful upon entry into the industry. He was the Rookie of the Year at his Prudential office, became one of the top 50 producers at Keller Williams at a time when I believe they had about 40,000 agents. And then he branched out onto his own, and we can talk a little bit later about why that was, some of the motivation behind that. In 2009, as I mentioned, this company was launched. In 2011, we were named as a finalist in the category of Most Innovative Brokerage by Inman News. In 2011, we were also featured for the first time in the Swanepoel Trends Report, and we'll cover that in just a bit. Glenn himself has been named as one of the top 100 most influential people in real estate. He's been named twice now to the Swanepoel Power 200, which measures the 200 most powerful people in the industry. Today, we're in 33 states, one Canadian province. We've got a number of states that are tracking. We've got phenomenal leadership, and I can remember back in March of 2010 when I joined the company, we were just in a handful of states, and most of them were in the Pacific Northwest. And you can really see today how we've been able to expand geographically and without a whole lot of impediment in doing so relative to what it might take a traditional brokerage. We've also hit a tremendous growth curve. 2015, just coming off a year that was enormously gratifying for all of us, for every single person who's a shareholder, who's an agent owner, who's been part of the company, who's a member of our valued staff. We've got an incredible team of staff members here, and you can see some of the numbers put into perspective. In 2014, through the end of November of 2014, we had attracted about 250 agents. A year later, at the end of November 2015, we had attracted about 525. And then we look at December. In 2014, we brought on 12 people in December. This past December, the month that just was, we brought on 73 people, which represents overall, and this figure will be updated. These are unofficial numbers, and I want to emphasize that, but slightly above 85% year-over-year growth in agents. And if you look at the agents we're attracting, it's really incredible. I'll take just the Texas market, for instance. Since April of 2015, we have gone from maybe 4 or 5 agents in Texas to about 145 agents in Texas. And if you look at the average volume of those 145 agents. It's impressive. At one point, it was 4.5 million. It may have changed as additional people have come on, but that's not a situation that is limited to Texas. If you look at some of our leadership in different markets, whether it's Sherry White in Wisconsin, Chuck Keller in Southern California, Ricky Tucker in Louisiana, we've really hit our stride. Also measured as sales volume. And so in 2015, we did almost $750 million in residential real estate sales, which represents a 138% increase in what we did year over year to 2014. Revenue sharing, and we're going to get into our revenue sharing model and the opportunity that exists there towards the end of the presentation. We paid out almost $750 million in revenue share to our agents, a significant increase over prior years. And in the aggregate, if you look overall at what we paid out, we are coming up on $2.5 million paid out to our agent and broker owners just because of their enthusiasm and their commitment to making opportunities available to the very best professionals in the industry with whom they network and who they know. And so it's been a great success. I mentioned the 2011 Trends Report. Stefan Swanepoel, if you don't know, is widely regarded as one of the leading visionaries in the industry relative to real estate trends. He's been tracking them for decades. Speaks a lot about the integration of technology into real estate and the inevitability of it and what that means for the industry. And back in 2011, he included us in his annual Trends Report as one of a handful of companies to keep an eye on because we really recognized that the industry was undergoing a paradigm shift. The consumer had changed entirely. Their profile was different now because they had the access to all of the information that agents typically had exclusively had within their possession. And so there were, it called for a change in ways that you approach the business. And I think that as a result, Stefan wrote a chapter in 2013 that spoke about the real estate office of the future. And effectively, it spoke about the options in terms of modeling that broker owners could take if they wanted to stay in the business going forward and if they wanted to remain competitive. And there were a couple of examples given. The first was the big box model. And if you take a look at it, we can see here it might be Blockbuster Superstore, it might be Target's, it might be Walmart, but effectively it is dependent upon a large physical space. In the real estate space, it means that you're going to put as many agents in there as you possibly can. You're going to have a good, strong culture. You're going to have some services, and there's going to be fees for those services. But the large physical facility becomes an indispensable part of that model. And on the retail side, there was an analogy drawn between Target superstores, and then in real estate, the example that was given was Keller Williams Realty. The second model that was presented in the chapter was called the cafe style model, and it called for a smaller physical footprint with fewer services, lesser cost, put more money back into the hands of the broker owner, but also still limited that broker owner's growth insofar as they were still tied to that space, that region. And the example that was given there was Remax of Canada, along with a couple of others. And the retail analogy that was drawn was with Starbucks. And if you look then, the final model that was given in the chapter was the cloud model. And on the retail side, there was an analogy drawn between the cloud model in real estate and Amazon.com. And the only real estate model that was held out as an example as a pure cloud play was eXp Realty. And so we like to say that in many ways we're doing to real estate what Amazon has done to books and to music. And I think, we draw a distinction between a cloud brokerage and a virtual office, right? Virtual companies have been around for quite some time now, and they recognize that the costs of running a brokerage directly impact the profitability of that brokerage and, in turn, the opportunities for income for the agents who are a part of it. However, typically, when we come to think about a virtual model, it's an isolating experience. We might be in our car, we might be in our closet, we might be sending paperwork to somebody. We have no idea who they are. We're never going to talk with them. We're never going to develop any sort of rapport. They're not going to know anything about our business, and we're really going to fend for ourselves. This model, in contrast, and this is why we don't really use the word virtual around here, it's very engaging. We have birthday parties in here. We've had baby showers in here. Brad can tell you that we've had foot races. In fact, we have them this morning, but sometimes we'll have races from one part of the campus to another. People know each other here. People care about each other here. People want to help one another, and it makes all the difference in the world. At the same time, we're recognizing the economic benefits that come with being virtual. And so I'll give you an example. With all of the transactions that we do in all of the different markets, we are staffed right now with 7 or 8 extremely talented transaction management folks. And if you think about what that would have to look like if we took that out into the traditional model, we would have to have staff in each state. We would have to have staff in certain localities within each state. And we're able to recognize efficiencies without compromising on service at all through the use of the cloud model. And you'll see that over and over again the more that you spend time in here. 2015 was a big year for us. It was a big year because Brad Andersohn, who was up here, joined us on January 1st. And we'll talk more about Brad here in a couple of slides. But Brad was also the inspiration behind this campus. Anybody who's been with us for a period of time knows that we've had a couple of different versions of this environment, this office. And each time that we've grown and made a change, the campus has evolved. And this has just been a dynamite place to work. To see people walking across the quadrangle, talking to one another, bumping into one another, to log in here and just be surrounded by social conversations about people's children, about their business, about the football game that happened over the weekend. It really is the realization of an engaging and interactive community that I think it took a little while to get there, but we're here, and Brad deserves a lot of credit for that. And so in addition to what we do here on the eXp side in terms of training and programming and education, we also open this campus up to anybody in the industry. And we have a lot of events. We have guest speakers, plenty of training and education that we want to make available to anybody because we believe that by educating people and through professional development, the industry as a whole can improve, and we're willing and happy to contribute to that. So retechcampus.com is where you can learn more about the events that are available to the industry as a whole. One of the things, obviously, with our transaction staff and with the systems that we use, everything can be done paperlessly, and it can be done from any location. It can be done while on vacation. It can be done from the beach. It can be done from the ski slopes. You really have everything at your fingertips. And in just this morning in our leadership meeting, we learned that we were in the process, maybe even developing something a bit further, constantly striving to make sure that the agent can be mobile. Because mobility is key. It's key to the consumer, and it's really key to being successful in the business today. It gives you your life back. It gives you some freedom, and you're able to take ownership of your life. And so everything from transaction management and support, human resources, onboarding, anything that you need can be done in here and through our systems. And that includes digital marketing. We've got probably one of the best, if not the best, web development, technical support teams in the industry anywhere, and they're remarkably devoted to this company and to the people who are a part of it. And you'll see them here in the green jackets. On the slide here, you can see Sean Durham, Logan Gagnon, Constance Scott, and Kirk Johnson, along with Jeffrey Bittner and Gabe LeBeau. These people are just remarkable at what they do, and again, provide a level of service to put our agents in a position, giving them a competitive advantage to most of the agents in the industry. And arming them with the tools and the systems that they need in order to be competitive going forward as the industry continues to evolve. Coaching, business development, we want to make sure that we are providing the very best information that we can to our agents, constantly trying to look at what's new, what's evolving, what's going to really help our agents stand apart from the rest of the folks in the business. And so right now we do anywhere between 15 and 30 hours a week of live instruction. It's two-way communication. There's visual displays, opportunities for questions and answers and breakout sessions. And we just revamped our calendar for the beginning of 2016. And we're really excited about all the things that are happening. Everything from lead generation to video tours to listing presentations to online lead packages and the relative comparative cost of each. We just keep on going. And again, Brad has been a big inspiration for this. More than 30 years in the industry now, and maybe that's a number that he wants taken out of the slide because he looks very, very young, has a lot of energy. He's been with First American Title. He built Active Rain University. He really was responsible for the growth and success of Zillow Academy. And then we were lucky enough to get him to join us. And there is nobody with a bigger heart. There's nobody more committed to the success of people who are in this business. And he's just a wonderful man, and we're very lucky to have him with us. And he's right here in front today. So if you haven't met with Brad, Roxanne, please be sure to do so. Vicky Bartholomew joined us towards the end of last year. She's in Houston, Texas today, but she has spent time in California. She spent time in Hawaii. She's been a salesperson, extremely effective. As an agent, she increased her own personal production in just 4 years from 2 million to 18 million. She had 38% market share as a listing agent in Southern California. She developed a mentor program for new agents, and she also served as a team leader over a market center in Southern California. Did that for 6 years, and she realized a net agent gain of over 500%, more than 35% gain in agent production, 56% in total profit. Why is this relevant? Because right now and today, Vicky is an important part of our education team. She's developing personal training programs for our agents. She's creating curricula that speak to the needs of new licensees, mid-level producers, top producers, and she's developing a number of different classes, and along with Brad, really harnessing all of the different areas of expertise and knowledge that our agents possess from coast to coast. All of this, of course, is included when you join the company. And in addition, we've got a self-paced learning module that can be found at expressway.expcloud.com. And if you go there, you'll see modules on working with buyers, working with sellers, a number of different courses. And as we continue to go forward, there will be modules dedicated to professional ethics, new regulations and rules that need to be learned in a particular state. We can have our agents take quizzes to demonstrate that they've absorbed and understood the knowledge that's being shared. And it really becomes an important part of the educational picture here at the company. We do have a mentor program in place that's here, so new licensees can benefit from the experience and expertise of somebody who's been in the business a bit longer than they have. And if you've done fewer than 6 transactions in your career, you can be assigned a mentor and get the support that you need, and really work hand in hand with somebody as you go to your first listing presentation, fill out your forms for your first time. And as we continue to grow, as we continue to attract quality people into each of our markets, the number of people who are willing to be mentors and who can be effective mentors will grow right alongside with it. Sorry, and I'll tell Sherry, I've explained to everybody at the outset, Sherry, I haven't gone through this presentation in quite a while. These are not my slides, so I'm stumbling a little bit. Geographic expansion. I can tell you this is really 2016 is going to be an exciting year for us. You know, we've had a number of people who have approached us about entering into markets internationally, as far away as Dubai, South Africa, Ghana, Australia, New Zealand, and we've held off on all of that except up in Canada until now. We've had great success expanding geographically in large measure because we can go in without the staffing, without the redundant staffing costs, without the physical footprint. So the investment to go into a place isn't all that significant. But when we start talking about international expansion, we start talking about local customs, practices that perhaps are a little bit different than our own here domestically. We start talking about moving money back and forth across different territories and borders. And we want to make sure that when we do it right. And I think in 2016, we will start to make some inroads in international expansion. We still have a lot of interest. And so imagine, if you will, a campus where today at 3 o'clock Eastern, we've got this presentation, but perhaps at 3 a.m. Eastern, you could have a group that's in here from New Zealand, or you could have a group in here from South Africa. And if you wanted to, you could be from Minnesota, and you could log in and you could share tips and ideas and success and get to know people from all over the world. And that perhaps is what excites me most about the model and about the technology. On the agent's business, we do take a agent-centric approach to the business, believing that the value in brand, the real value that exists within the brand, is the agent brand. It's not eXp, it's not Remax, it's not Keller Williams, it's not Prudential. It's the individual agents. Again, we said this when we talked about agent ownership at the outset. It's the agents and brokers who are developing the relationships, who have the credibility, who have the local knowledge. None of that changes. That's still the most valuable part of the experience for the consumer. And in fact, on the buy side, you could probably change brokerages a dozen times in the course of purchasing a home and looking for a home And you wouldn't necessarily even need to know it unless you had to get a new disclosure signed or something like that, because your agent is going to stay with you and they're going to provide the indispensable advice. And so as a result, your marketing, your signage really ought to speak to that. So here we are committed not only to preserving the agent brand, but enhancing it in any way that we can. And so you'll see some examples here. The Santa Fe Experience sign that you see on the left-hand side of the slide, probably my favorite sign that I've seen produced here throughout the 6 years that I've been here, resembles a Georgia O'Keeffe painting. Julie Brooke is responsible for this, and we were able to help her design it. I love it. Jay Thompson in Phoenix, Thompson's Realty Group. Brent Beavers in Alabama. If you have real estate needs, leave it to Beavers. And so each are just examples of the many different ways in which we can help enhance the agent brand and develop it and build it and really turn it into an asset that the agent owns. In addition, some people focus in particular areas of the business more than others. So in addition to the traditional brand, we do have an REO brand. We've got a commercial brand, and we've got a luxury brand. And those are all available to each of our agents depending upon their particular area of expertise. Systems, and this is where, I look back and I think about all the different things that have happened over the last year and am completely blown away. The first is with Real Satisfied. I'm going to draw a little bit of a parallel. One of the things that we do here is make sure that our customers have the very best experience that they possibly can. And when I say customers, I mean our agents. And so what we did beginning in 2015 is we began to send out a survey to each of our agents and brokers. It's based on the Net Promoter System, and it's a simple survey. It asks one question. On a scale of 1 to 10, how likely are you to recommend eXp Realty to another agent in the business? And it's such a valuable tool because in it, we're really able to it's a formal way to collect the ideas of everybody in the company. And you'll see over and over again since we've done it, we've taken those ideas and we've implemented them. So we introduced the direct purchase program, which I'll discuss in just a second. And so agents want to know, okay, I'm enrolled in the direct purchase program. I'm buying stock as I close transactions at a discount to market, but I don't know how many shares I have. And that came up in a Net Promoter Survey response, and we went out and we built a dashboard within a matter of weeks so agents could have that information. And so the key is to try and create the best customer experience we possibly can here for our agents. And if we continue to focus on that, everything else will fall into place. Well, it's no different for the consumer. And so at eXp, when you come here, instead of paying $99 a month for Real Satisfied, you're going to get it included in your tech package. And so when you finish with a consumer, you're going to be able to send out a survey more robust than the one that we send out. You're going to be able to send it out to your consumer. You're going to be able to collect testimonials, and you're going to be able to find out how satisfied they were, how likely they are to recommend you to somebody else in the business. And it becomes a real source of information for you on ways in which you continually improve, but also a way in which to highlight times and instances where you've done really well and gone above and beyond. Several of you I know are here holding over from the SkySlope training that just concluded. We're thrilled about this. And again, it goes back to the Net Promoter Survey. How likely are you? How happy are you with your experience? Well, one of the things that agents said that we could do better at is in providing a transaction management platform that looked modern, that was easy to use, that didn't take a lot of time, and could really help them with their business. And so enter SkySlope. And on January 15th, we will officially launch SkySlope in all of our markets with all of our agents. It's a wonderful platform. We've long looked forward to the 15th of January. There's been a lot of work behind the scenes with our transaction staff, our admin folks, our tech people, and the people over at SkySlope. But this will provide for our agents simple document management, integration with zip forms in February. You can separate documents very easily, break them apart into their constituent pieces, fill in the checklist in terms of what's required within your market as set by your broker. You can email directly into the file. You can text directly into the file using a certain code. Your consumer, your client, can fax directly into the file. And if you have any problem with any of this, in addition to our own people on staff here, in addition to WTM and Jody and her team and transactions, SkySlope has 24/7 live support, agent support by phone, by chat, by email, and we couldn't be more excited about it. We've done some testing prior to the end of the year. Our agents love it, and we're thrilled to have it be a part of their business. In addition, you can manage your documents in SkySlope and your files mobilely on your iPad, on your iPhone. Pretty soon you'll be able to do so on your Android device, and you'll have mobile and desktop browser access as well. You'll have digital signature capability. You can send out a form out of SkySlope for signature, and once it gets signed, it can come right back into the file. Now, here's something that also happened in 2015, and it has really changed, I think, the company. It has changed the business for a lot of people, and it's conversion with a K, Kunversion. If you've not heard of it previously, take a look at it. It was developed by the folks who launched a product called Realty Generator. Realty Generator became the basis for Market Leader, and which ultimately was sold to Trulia. And so these guys know what they're doing, and they've come up and developed conversion. There's 24/7 chat assistance here. There's a CRM that's built in, and it is typically out in the marketplace. This is going to cost $400 to set up and $400 per month. And here, everybody at eXp gets it at no additional cost. It's included in their technology fee. It's a huge value, and if you look at the different products that are out there and platforms, and if you look at the relative cost of lead generation campaigns, both on the buyer side and on the listing side, with conversion, at a fraction of the cost of what you might pay with Boomtown or Real Geeks or some other platform, you can turn those campaigns on and off as your business requires more or less lead flow. So it's been terrific. There's so much more that can be said about it. It's got a great mobile application as well, very friendly for the consumer, and again, 24/7 chat assistance. You can send out predictive emails, which means that if somebody looks at a house 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, the system can pick that up, can detect it, and can send out an email that says, I've noticed that you've been looking at 123 Main Street a number of times. Would you like to learn more about the property? Would you like to see it? So in terms of lead generation, but also nurturing the leads, we think this is a product that's second to none, and our agents agree. In addition, we have an open house mobile app, and so you hold your open house. Clients are going to come in; they're going to sign in through the mobile application. You can then immediately transfer those folks, those contacts, into your dashboard, into your CRM, and you can have a systematized way of following up with them. So we have that available. We have the ability within conversion to develop squeeze pages. So if, for instance, a consumer wants to know what their house is worth, we can develop these pages very simply, put in your address, and get a valuation. We can create Craigslist campaigns very effectively and very quickly. Posting 3 clicks can be done in under 1 minute, and we've got an example coming up with a success story of an agent who's generated more than 200 leads using just Craigslist and the Craigslist campaign. In fact, looking back, I can remember one of our own agents in the Pacific Northwest, Bob Kelly, developed a lead generation Craigslist auto posting program. He was way ahead of his time, but he shared it with our broker in South Carolina, Jim Gerard. Jim Gerard generated more than 900 free leads using the program that Bob Kelly developed, and as a result was able to close a ton of business through it. And so now we have the Craigslist posting program through conversion. In addition to the conversion website, every agent, if they want one, gets a WordPress website. And again, this is enhancing the agent brand, building the brand that the agent has, whatever their particular niche is. And so here's an example. Erin Noble, who's out in the Pacific Northwest. Here's what her Bellingham, Washington real estate page looks like. And here's another one in Phinney Ridge down in Tennessee. Lead generation, in addition to doing it yourself, because the company's always been committed to teaching agents what they need to know in terms of generating business, generating leads. But if you're too busy or if you're not inclined to do it yourself, we will run campaigns on your behalf. We will run campaigns for our agents, and we will do so very effectively and at a fraction of the cost of what they might pay the third-party aggregators, Zillow, Trulia, Realtor.com. On average, we're generating leads for our agents at an average cost of $14 per lead. You can compare this to hundreds of dollars per lead effectively in terms of closed leads. When you start thinking about sharing zip codes using other programs, subscription plans, Here, these are exclusive leads. We have programs that start at $100 per month, go up to $250 per month, $500 per month, and there's no, on the $100 a month, it's a 12-month commitment, but there's no split taken off of that. Those are leads that belong to the agent. They're not being shared with anybody else. And again, if you look at the conversion rate, the effective cost per lead is significantly less than what you might pay if you go out to the popular third-party sites. Part of what makes it possible for us is we're now members of about 80 different multiple listing services in different parts of the United States. Everybody who joins us gets a careers webpage. So if you like the company, if you like your experience, if you're rating us a 10 on that Net Promoter Survey, if you think you can provide an opportunity to somebody else who's in the business, who's credible and ethical and experienced and professional, and who really wants to take their business to the next level, you can share this with them, and they can apply through your site. And of course, if they come in and they request more information, the nice thing about this is we're going to know exactly where that interest was generated, and we're going to be able to send that lead right to you. In terms of propagating listings and syndication, right now, through our platform, our listings get sent out to more than 600 outlets, reaching consumers where they are today, where more than 90% of consumers are starting their search online. And so our marketing efforts, and this will continually be the case, are geared at making sure that your listings are propagated in the most, in the largest number of outlets possible. Regis Business Lounges. If you're not familiar with Regis, you can go to regis.com and learn more about the company, but they have several thousand Class A commercial office locations around the world, and our agents, as part of their $50 per month tech fee, have access to the business lounges in every single one of those locations. Part of adding value to the consumer experience today, where the consumer is evolved and where they have all the information, is maybe going to them or providing a place for them to meet you at if they need it, if it's not a Starbucks, if it's not at their house, but someplace that's close, so that they don't have to drive too far, but they can go to a Regis, or you can go to a Regis if you're on the road between appointments and you need to recharge your computer, or you need to go and get a cup of coffee, or you need to go and meet with somebody. They're beautiful spaces. Everybody gets a card when they join. That gives them access to the business lounges, and it also gives them a discount on day offices and conference rooms. But we have people that use Regis's extensively in this company. We were the first company to enter into a national agreement with Regis, and it's been a real value for our agents. Merrill Corporation. We have a shopping cart with Merrill, and so people can go and they can order calendars and marketing materials and prospecting postcards and other items, and they can purchase those through Merrill. We also have a relationship with breakthroughbroker.com, and again, you can go here and you can get listing presentations made and buyer presentations, postcards, brochures, letterhead, and all sorts of content. A tremendous value, again, all part of our agent tech fee. For those who are wondering who might be on title to real property, agents who own property and they want to list it or they want to buy it in their own name, they can do that up to 3 times each year, and that will not be subject to any split at all. You need to be a productive agent. You need to pay a $250 transaction fee and the errors and omissions and $25 broker review fee. We'll get into the fee structure in a second. And you need to be an owner of record. But if that's the case, we don't want a split. We don't charge a split. We just want to make sure that we don't lose money on the processing, but there's no cost to the agent to engage in those transactions. So relative to costs and fees, I will explain this as effectively as I can here. Again, seeing this slide for the first time in a while, but to join the company, it's a $99 investment. And that $99 includes your first monthly technology fee. And if we move over to the right side of the slide just a little bit, you'll see that there's a $50 per month technology fee that each of our agents pay. It's $99 in Canada, but it includes all of the things that we've just discussed. The $99 startup fee includes your first technology fee, and it also includes business cards and folders. It includes your conversion website. It includes your WordPress website. It includes your premium Google applications, Real Satisfied, Breakthrough Broker, all of the tools that we've discussed here. And then on the first transaction of the year, and this has always been the case, we take out, prior to the split, $420 in the U.S. for eXp University tuition so that we can continue to bring people in, guest speakers, and develop curricula. It's $479 in Canada, but again, it's taken out prior to the split. So in the U.S., The company's subsidizing 20% of that, which means it's effectively a net of $334 to the agent. Excuse me. Our cap, I think one of the lowest caps among any national brokerage in the industry, apart from 100% transaction fee-based shops. $16,000 in company commission dollar, that is our cap, and it equates to $80,000 in gross commission income. So up until that point, everything is at an 80-20 split. There's no franchise fee, there's no desk fee, there's no royalty paid anywhere. It's an 80-20 split on the first $80,000 in gross commission income. Thereafter, you are at 100% for the remainder of the year, except that at that point, much like the personal transactions where you're on record, at that point, a $250 transaction fee kicks in. So on a capped status transaction, you're going to pay a $25 broker review fee, a $30 E&O fee, except in California where it's slightly higher, and then you're going to pay $250 per transaction, and that is the case for up to 20 transactions after capping. On the 21st transaction after capping and thereafter during the course of the year, you pay $75. That $250 gets reduced to $75. And why does that become important, that 20 transaction number? It's important because it's one of the benchmarks for our Icon agent program. And this is really the first way that we're going to discuss agent ownership opportunities, ways in which agents can increase their equity stake. When we talk about iconic agents, we're talking about agents in the marketplace who really have established themselves as an authority on real estate in the area. Their signs are up. We know who they are. They're the go-to person. They're respected. They're ethical. They treat people with respect, and they're really a resource. And we all live in places. We know who they are. And at eXp, we believe that if we attract those people, then we're attracting agents who fit into our target demographic. And we also think that they're going to draw other people who are also sharing the same ideals. They're entrepreneurial. They're ethical. They're professional. They want to learn. They want to get better, and they want to help others. So the way this works, we have a questionnaire for prospective icons that icons can go in and they can fill it out. But the production alone is not how we measure this. Just as important, in fact, probably more important, is that an icon be a good cultural fit. That they really sort of believe in what we're doing. They believe in the model. They believe in this environment. They believe in collaboration. And they're willing to give back to the company. And typically what we expect there is that they're willing to give 1 hour per month, and that could be through teaching a class here on campus. Brad put out an open call this morning for people to come and teach and share what they know. So they might do that. They might participate in a panel. They might serve on a committee. We have a very active broker vetting committee for new people who want to come in and open markets and go through an application process. So there's a number of ways in which people can contribute. But let's assume for a second that they're doing the 20 transactions post-cap. So they're capping, then they're doing 20 transactions. They're a great cultural fit, and they're giving back, and they're attending our 2 major events each year. At that point, they're icons. And when they hit that transaction, that 20 transaction, at that point, they earn their entire cap back. So the cap, again, $16,000 in company commission dollar. Once they hit the icon numbers, they're going to get all $16,000 back in public company stock. $4,000 will vest immediately, and then $12,000 will vest on the 3rd anniversary. And if you take a look, we've got a spreadsheet that sort of runs some numbers through this. If you take a look at the year in which the production occurred, right? So if you look back on the 3rd anniversary, when all of the equity has been paid out, say for 2016 in the production, and then you add in all of the fees, the tech fee, the $250 fee, the E&O, every fee imaginable, and you apply the value of the equity, assuming for a second that the stock doesn't go up, doesn't go down, and of course, there's nobody in the company who doesn't believe that as we continue to grow and continue to bring good people in, that the value of the stock won't go up. But let's just assume for a second that it holds steady. That alone reduces the icon's company dollar amount to a really low number, somewhere in the $7,000, $8,000 range for the year, depending upon the number of transactions that are at issue. So it's a great program, and of course, it gives somebody an opportunity to build a substantial stake in the company, and it's a program that we want to have in place, not just in 2015, not just in 2014 or 2016, but for many years going forward. Revenue sharing. I spoke just a bit when going over Glenn's background and his history that he was in the top 50 at Keller Williams back in 2005. And one of the reasons why he was attracted to that company is because they have a profit sharing model that's in place. And of course, profit is measured by income less any sort of expense. And so those expenses that we talked about at the beginning, the photocopier, the toner, the rent, the cam charges, the staff, the telephone system, the person who's going to answer the telephones, all of that gets deducted from income, and what's left is in some form profit. And it's a number that the agent has very little control over, Pete, unless they're the ones dictating the expenses within their office space. You really have no control over the profitability of an enterprise unless it's your enterprise and you dictate where the money goes. And so Glenn was really excited about profit sharing, and he was a pretty effective recruiter, brought about 200 people into his organization during the time that he was there, and the most he ever made was about $6,000 in a year. And he said, well, this isn't going to be quite what I envisioned it to be. It's not going to make me financially free at any point soon. And so if I ever do this, if I, Glenn, ever develop a model like this, I'm going to have it payable on gross revenue. So forget about taking out the expenses or profit, right? We're just going to look at the income and we're going to pay out a percentage of that. And so that's what our revenue sharing is. And this is a point in the presentation, particularly since it's been a while since I've done it. I'm happy to go over it again and again and try and explain it. It's a chart. And why don't I turn on my laser pointer and we'll start here. We're going to start in the center column, active personally recruited agents, FLQR. And people in the company will explain this chart in a number of different ways. This is how I like to explain it. But again, stop me if it doesn't make sense. So we start with this column, active personally recruited agents, FLQR for short, right? And effectively what we're doing here is we're asking a question. And the question is, how many people do I need to introduce into eXp, attract, sponsor, whatever words you want to use, directly in order to qualify for this column over here, exponential share? And if we look at it, it's 3.5%, 3.8, 2.4, 1.4, down to 4.5 here at the 7th degree. And these are all percentages of gross commission income, right? So how many people do I need to introduce to qualify for exponential share? That's our question. And if we contrast exponential share with expansion share over here, you can see a smaller set of numbers, 0.2%, 0.1, 0.1, 0.1, 0.5, 0.5, 1.5% in the aggregate. This is expansion share, okay? And anytime you introduce anybody into eXp, you automatically qualify for this. You're going to get this no matter what. Through 7 levels of production, you're going to earn a percentage of gross commission income. But to qualify for the larger number, how many people do I need to introduce directly? And the answer is just 1. Okay? So if I introduce Brad into the company, and I wish I had, and Brad goes out and he does a transaction and there's a $10,000 gross commission, I'm going to earn 3.5% or $350 off of that deal. And that's going to be the case every single time Brad does a transaction until he caps for the year. Now let's say for a second that I introduce Brad and Brad introduces Larry and Larry does a transaction. Brad's going to get the 3.5% on Larry's transaction, but I, as Brad's sponsor, am going to earn 0.2%, the expansion share, unless, in addition to Brad, I've introduced Mo, Curly, Sally, Harry, John. So now I've introduced 5 or more people directly, 5 or more FLQR, which means on this second level production, when Larry does that deal, I'm going to earn the 0.2%, but I'm also going to earn 3.8% in exponential share for a total of 4%. So Larry's transaction, again, using round numbers, $10,000 gross commission, I'm going to earn, as Brad's sponsor, 4% or $400 every time Larry does that deal until Larry caps. And so that's sort of a bit how the chart works. So if you have introduced 20 people directly, you're going to earn a full 1% on level 5 production. And here down at the 7th level, if you at some point in time decide to pursue this with any sort of enthusiasm and you get to 40 people directly, then you're going to end up earning a full 5% off of production done at the 7th level. So these are people, you may not even know exactly who they are. But it adds up, and it adds up quickly. And so I can tell you that today, with just about 870 agents, we've got a number of people in the company who are earning 6 figures annually in revenue sharing. We've got many others who are earning, $500 a month, $2,000 a month, $5,000 a month, $40 a month. And as we go forward, as we continue to help agents build their business and stay ahead of the curve in the industry over the course of the next 3 to 5 years, we believe that there will be a number of people, a component of their business will be a recurring annual income stream that is largely passive, that is in the six figures, and in some cases even in the seven figures. And that's the power of the technology. When we really talk about the technology, we talk about the avatars. What are we using it for? We're using it for collaboration, for sharing information, for improving our craft, but also because it provides us with income opportunities that otherwise wouldn't exist. Because I can tell you right now, if we had transaction staff and admin staff and tech staff and physical offices in every single market in which we did business, the revenue sharing model here would not be possible. And so we've run through a couple of hypotheticals, though, of what it might look like. So you can see here, if we assume an average purchase price of $250,000 and an average number of deals per year of 12, 2.5% commission, and let's say that's the average production of somebody that's in your rev share organization. You introduce 10 people directly, each of whom introduce two, each of whom introduce another two. Now you're looking at $161,000 per year in revenue sharing, and the numbers get significantly larger, as you can see, into the seven figures. And a lot of this is going to happen naturally as we continue to grow as a company, as people become more and more aware of eXp and the opportunities that it provides, and just what a difference agent ownership makes. People are going to bump into you. People are going to come up to you and say, hey, I heard you're with eXp, and I've also heard a little bit about eXp. Can you tell me a bit more? And so we're really excited for the opportunity that people have who are with us today. And we think that they're going to be able to participate in and benefit from our growth and the revenue sharing opportunity as we continue to grow. Ownership isn't just available to icons, however, and so more generally, and this is now 2016 will be the third year in which we've done this, we have equity incentives, public stock awards available to our agents, icon or not, just for doing things that good agents are going to do in the business anyway. Things like closing your first transaction of the year, capping, hitting that $16,000 in company commission dollar, attracting another agent who's going to be productive. There are equity awards attached to each of those achievements. And in 2015, it was 1,000 shares for capping, 1,000 shares for each agent you brought on board who's productive, and 100 shares for closing your first transaction. And we've made a lot of awards, all subject to vesting, throughout the course of those programs. And so much so, and you know, our stock has grown. I think a year ago we were at about 17 cents per share. Today, last time I checked, we were about 84 cents per share. And so as we continue to grow, as we continue to add good people, the number of shares will decline over time that we award for these achievements. But the value of the award should not decline really at all. And in fact, if you look today, somebody who earns even 500 shares at 84 cents is getting a greater economic benefit than somebody who earns 1,000 shares at 17 cents. And so you can see here we decided at the end of last year that we wanted to make sure that this wasn't something that was tied to calendar year. And so going forward, our agents are going to know exactly what the equity awards are going to look like well into the future. And so you can see here, if you're able to view it, I'm not sure how visible it is from the theater seating, but so today we're at about 870, 880 agents. When we hit 1,000 agents, let's say that happens in March, at that point, we will continue to pay out 1,000 shares for capping and 1,000 shares for attraction through the month of March. And then on April 1st, we will reduce the share amounts for those achievements to 750 shares. And they will stay at 750 until we hit 1,500 agents. And when we hit 1,500 agents, if you cap, you're going to get 500 shares. And if you attract somebody else, you're going to get 500 shares. And so you can see once we hit 12,000 agents, you'll be down to 75 shares each for those achievements. But the value of the enterprise will go up because we'll continue to bring in very good people. But in a very nice way, I think this rewards those folks who have been with us, who have helped us get to where we are today. Those people who join us today can participate at levels where there are larger numbers of shares given out for these achievements. And at the same time, those folks who join us tomorrow will not have their opportunity really diminished in any meaningful way. They'll still be able to participate in agent ownership and get a lot of value as a result of being a good professional in the organization. A couple of examples of people who have had great success within our model and who have made, frankly, great contributions to our company. And certainly you don't need to look any further than Kerry Lucas. Kerry is down in Atlanta. had a very strong lead generation, online lead generation business, has been building a team for a number of years, joined eXp in October of 2013, and put in her first year 29 people in her revenue share group. She's just concluded her second year with us, and she now has more than 100 people in her revenue share group, and she's got some big names in that group. Gene Frederick, for instance, and if you don't know Gene was the top recruiter at Keller Williams in 4 out of the last 10 years, and he joined us in April of 2015 and has made a huge difference. And Kerry's relationship with Gene's sponsor means that all of the people who join under Gene, and so far it's a lot of people, both at the leadership level in different parts of the country as well as in Austin, Texas. They are all indirectly in Kerry's group, and she's going to realize revenue sharing dollars off of the production of every single one of them. Kevin Mullaney continues to be a remarkable story down in New Mexico, joined us as a new licensee in his very first year, thanks to the tutelage of Joe Schumerth, who's our managing broker in New Mexico, as well as the classes and the systems and the lead generation tools that we have in here. Kevin closed nearly $6 million in his first year in real estate, which is almost unheard of. In his second year, he closed $6.3 million. He's had a baby in the interim, and so he's balancing a lot of things, but he has been a great cultural contributor. He's been on panels at each of our conventions, believes in the company, believes in the power of the model, and he's an example of what it can do for somebody's business. My friend Chris Lefebvre here in Massachusetts, where I'm from, was an engineer throughout most of his life. He was a plastics engineer. He worked for the company that developed Segway, the two-wheelers that people ride around on. And he would probably tell you still today that he was the last guy in the world who would ever describe himself as a salesperson. And he was in the business part-time prior to joining eXp. And in his first year with eXp, he was able to get himself to a point where he was able to break away from his engineering career, which wasn't giving him the fulfillment that he wanted. Once he went full-time, he closed 26 transactions. He now has an assistant. He's got a buyer's agent on his team. And this year, in his second year, he's projected to close close to $10 million. In fact, I talked to Chris the other day. He might hit the icon status. And there was a time before conversion when we had the WordPress site, Chris would come in here and he would listen and participate in the classes that Kirk Johnson would hold and Gabe LeBeau, all geared towards SEO and achieving high organic rankings for broad search terms. And so at one point, Chris's hometown is a town called Methuen. And if you went and you searched for Methuen real estate, Chris was the only individual agent that would come up on the first page of Google. Everybody else was Realtor.com and Zillow and Trulia and Remax and Caldwell Banker. And there was Chris. He came in, I think it was third overall, fourth overall. So he on his own used to put in the legwork, and he generated a ton of leads. And that's how he was able to free himself from his previous career. And today, with the addition of conversion and some of our other systems, it's only become easier, and he's continued to build and leverage the sphere of influence that he's developed while achieving the success. He has a great reputation within his local community, and he is regarded as an authority on real estate. I mentioned to you the Craigslist success of Jim Gerard and Bob Kelly's. Jim's here. Bob Kelly's system that Jim adopted and that was shared with him. Well, Ben Williams is another story in Atlanta, Georgia. He's used the Craigslist strategy as well through conversion. He's been posting each day for 6 months, and in that time he's generated more than 200 leads with an average sales price of $265,000. And if you assume a conversion rate of 10%, which we think using the systems and using conversion, somewhere in the 8 to 10% range is achievable as opposed to maybe 1 to 2% for traditional online leads, that works out to about 21 new sales for Ben. So he's been a great success story. Independent brokerage owner Micah Murwatt in Oklahoma City. She was with a boutique brokerage, was ready to start her own company. Instead, she joined eXp Realty, and in a very short period of time, she has built a phenomenal team, contributing to the company culturally as well as production. A lot of energy, and she's been a great addition. But demonstrates, I think, the opportunity for would-be brokerage owners as well as brokerage owners who have converted and joined us. And that brings us to our next success story. Ian Marshall was an independent brokerage owner in Atlanta, Georgia. He had 17 agents when he joined eXp Realty in October of 2013, which incidentally was right around the time that we became a public company. Moved his 17 agents over. He's been with us for 2 years now, plus a few months, and he's over 100 agents in Atlanta. eXp Realty was named as one of the top 25 places to work by the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. He has more than 200 agents now in his revenue share group, and the opportunity for Ian that isn't available to him as a traditional brokerage owner is that he now has a team and an organization that expands into Austin, Texas. Gene Frederick's in his group as well. He's brought people into Tennessee. He's brought people into Florida, and the entire marketplace, every market that the company is in, and even some markets that it's not in yet, are available to Ian, and he can scale in a way, and any brokerage owner can scale in a way here at eXp that they can't otherwise do without investing heavily in physical infrastructure, without investing in staff, without getting additional brokerage licenses, without having to provide training and figure out what it is that they don't know that they need to invest in and where the money should be best spent. It creates an opportunity to scale and to leverage professional credibility that does not exist anywhere else. And the wonderful thing about the company and the model, whether it's through revenue sharing or equity or what have you, is that this is an opportunity that's available not just to brokerage owners, but to any agent who joins the company. Because at eXp Realty, we're all owners, and you get to stand in the shoes of a brokerage owner, but you don't have to review the files, you don't have to supervise, you don't have to incur the liability, and you don't have to incur the cost. And that, I guess, now that we get to the last slide here, is the end of this presentation, and I want to thank Roxanne in particular. As I mentioned, I have not done this slide deck yet, and so my first time through, and I appreciate you sitting through it, and I hope it was somewhat comprehensible. And if it was, for some strange reason, extremely effective, you can go to join.exprealty.com and you can sign up. But I will come right out to you and see if you have any questions at all. But thank you for being here.